driver moves towards LAX is that there are flight restrictions around LAX. So 𝗣𝗏𝗏 is having to maneuver around some of that. You think about where they're flying right now, flight path for planes that are coming in. We just passed the Hollywood Park Casino, which is obviously by Stadium and by the Forum and by the Intuit Dome, which is being built. Quite a landmark in the city of champions. Now we're moving into Westchester, which is literally the city is located, so that's going to make this challenging. But this person is really moving fast, a real sense of urgency.
Yeah, you really feel for those other motorists who have no idea what is coming up. They're behind them at these very high speeds. It could start to get a little backed up now as the freeway has some options as to where to go and to continue on onto Imperial Highway. There you have the LAX property right in that viewpoint right there. Onto the south of LAX, heading into Ray area where there is a tight-knit community and some pretty narrow streets and not a lot of places to go or to turn around necessarily.
So this is part of the airport where we got a lot of the private planes that are located, and then you've got some of the other planes. We just passed the LA Times headquarters, which obviously has been in the news a lot this week. And on a Friday, but a lot of people head to LAX to get out of town. And this person is just moving real fast.
And now on the flats part, no longer really a freeway like you think of a freeway.
A lot of those buildings before. As this driver moves back, the thick of it on a Friday night commute is probably going to start running into some traffic here. It's interesting the driver did not make the choice to head down PCH or head into one of those beach communities located near the airport, and instead moving back eventually towards Inglewood and some of the other communities there. Let's see which freeway the driver takes right here. They take the 405 and then talk about traffic. Move towards you know, the western part of Los Angeles, and that's usually backed up at this point in a Friday night.
Staying on the 105.
We'll see.
Yeah. You make a good point. To get on that 405 going either direction at this hour, 5:30 on a Friday night, not probably a good idea, but the driver here looking at what's ahead of him and seeing it's still pretty wide open. We talk about this being a Friday night and you see it so wide open.
So this driver now driving in the carpool lane, we don't know how many people are in this vehicle. I mean, it's possible that there are more than one, but we don't have a clue on that. We have not been able to get good eyes on this driver.
Woo! What happens now?
Whoa! Okay.
What happens now?
Look at this, going across, doing a little Frogger move across all lanes of traffic. And you wonder, will they try to get off the freeway now that they've moved onto the other side there?
They realize that traffic going this opposite direction is really backed up bumper to bumper like you might expect on a Friday night at 5:30. This driver now looking at...
Are we going to get off the freeway?
On ramp to the freeway, so perhaps coming up something to...
So yeah, I mean, because you think about this road, this 105, which leads you into downtown Los Angeles as well, and you have all that Friday night traffic that heads in that way. You see this cruiser really flying here, and we're going to of where exactly this car is.
Are we surface streets now?
It appears to be that way, and it also appears that police cruiser
ramp
is ahead of it. So, yeah, I think 𝗣𝗏𝗏 may be a little confused as they try to get a sense of where this vehicle is. You know, hopefully they can use the... Let's hope that the law enforcement helicopter isn't as confused and may be able to give us a sense of it with the bird ahead. But you know, this is congested and challenging. How many people live in Southern California? I always think this every time when you fly into LAX and you look out the window, and this is the view that you get as you come into Southern California. You see all the homes and everything above. Okay, so here we go. Here's our suspect. We're back on this chase. You know, that for even finding a car like this, what a sort of needle in a haystack it can be, just because there are just so many people that live here, so many people on the roads, and so many homes and apartments, everything else so closely together. congested cities in the country.
What we don't know much is about what happened with this shooting suspect, when and where. Is this somebody that they were following? Is this a current shooting like it happened today? Do they have an ID on this person? We're not saying stolen car, so do they know where the car came from? Do they know where the person lives? Police might have a lot of information on this driver. Could be a matter of time before this person's in custody, if not today, right now. But right there, you see police right there following so closely. Well, and hard to follow closely.
And there are varying levels we see in doing this a lot of years, Christine, of desperation from drivers. This driver seems to be pretty desperate to get away and driving wildly and putting him or herself and other drivers on the road in danger because of it, moving really fast. So much so that law enforcement is doing different calls on whether they get up close to this person or not. You wonder if this might be a place where they do a pit maneuver, which means that's a pursuit intervention technique where they tap the side of the vehicle with a law enforcement vehicle, spin out the car, and end the pursuit. You try to do that when it's about an hour. You try to do that in an area where it's a little more open so you don't hit the car into something else right there. Particularly, it would be way too congested to do it because you could end up putting another driver at risk. You send that car into another driver, but on some of these surface streets, you wonder if it's going to open up a little bit and they may have an opportunity as they get closer to try to stop this thing. I mean, a shooting suspect, that is clearly a much more serious crime than sometimes we see with these pursuits. You wonder if this suspect is armed, and if so, that could influence what law enforcement does, but also increases
Then you have the vehicle backed up here against traffic, and the driver doing these evasive moves to try to squeeze through vehicles with police there behind them. Would hate in front of that vehicle right now as this driver is trying to get around them any way possible.
So now driving on the wrong way of the road, which is always... at least now, we do have the lights and sirens, and we've got the police helicopter with the light. That gives drivers a little bit of a sense that something's coming. When they are driving and they're in so-called tracking mode, when they are not lights and sirens right behind, there really is no warning for this coming. Now you know that there's some commotion, and you're a little bit more alert if you're driving in that area to be careful. But in reality, where this poor gal, there's really not a lot of places that you can go. You just hope that it doesn't influence you. So we're in Inglewood. When you get off the freeways there, they got those big colorful billboards that are illegal in parts of Los Angeles, now driving past it. You wonder if we're going to get close to some of the iconic spots in Inglewood, like SoFi Stadium or others, as we drive through the streets now of Inglewood.
Wonder too, is this driver looking for a place to bail? This is very scary because now you have unsuspecting people who are coming out of these restaurants and businesses, walking to their vehicles, children as well. Very scary. That driver, though, that is
going
so
the
dangerous.
Wrong way.
So dangerous.
Okay, and look, it's interesting to see, the law enforcement vehicles are having a hard time keeping up. And this driver goes one way, we see some different vehicles going the other way because they've got a long line of cop cars. And because of that, the shooting suspect nature of this, and if there is a standoff at the end of this, you want to have a lot of backup. If you believe that is armed, clearly desperate, clearly dangerous, you want help. And that may be part of the reason we see so many different law enforcement vehicles part of this pursuit, even if they are somewhat far behind.
Well, we talk about this being a Friday night, and you think now people going out to dinner or going out for the evening, coming home from work. Chances are a lot more pedestrians here on the streets now at this hour. It's still not too late where people are, perhaps walking to and from different locations, but that traffic really backed up. And again, I do wonder, how much do police know about this suspect driver? Do they have an address? Do they know his or her parents? Is there a spouse that they're talking to? Are they able to reach this person by cell phone? Obviously, this driver driving at very high rates of speed, making these was going in the wrong direction and probably running through red lights. I would guess stop this driver from trying to take precautions, thinking about other people there on the streets. How does this one play out? And you can only pray for everybody that there's no loss of life in this one, especially somebody innocent.
Exactly, and you wonder in terms of, was there any loss of life involved in this apparent shooting that led to the start of this too? And you hope not. You wonder also if this is associated with one of the stories that we've done recently, or if this is something new that just happened. We really don't know, don't have a lot of information at this point. We have, because of all the LAX flight restrictions, haven't been able to, frankly, shoot it that closely in the window of if this is a male or a woman, or, you know, who this is that's driving. But now, you know, moving through these crowded areas on a Friday night, as you mentioned, look at all these cars moving. I mean, it's amazing. Whoa, maybe a little bit of a sideswipe there, but that nobody's been hit.
Yeah.
I mean, the chance of somebody getting into some sort of wreck at this pace and with all those different law enforcement vehicles is very high. And you just hope that that doesn't happen. But you feel for the people that are out there and how difficult this is for them. Okay, so here is this vehicle now in a parking lot, going to sort of run out of space here, and, you know, driving in circles.
Well, there's so many businesses. Century Boulevard has really built up with a lot of stores and shops and restaurants. And we talk about it being so close to SoFi Stadium, so much to do there in this day and age. The suspect, oh, look, are police trying to block off the road there?
You wonder also if they're, because now the driver is slower and is a little more confined, although it's a little hard to tell exactly where that driver is right now. We've got law enforcement vehicles driving in lots of different areas, and we may be blocked in. It's possible that the driver is blocked in there, too. Is that the driver at the top of the picture? And let's see if we can get a sense of where this person is.
Hard to tell. You have to wonder where this person thinks they are going, being that they're here on surface streets now.
It doesn't seem like they know where they're going. I mean, just having seen this. So the driver, the law enforcement helicopter, back on surface streets, and is that the vehicle there? Okay.
You know, we talk about why suspects like this flee in such a dangerous manner, you know, and we would have police experts on, but in the past they would say, I don't think this person is a stranger to law enforcement or even to incarceration. The way this person is working so hard to get away with no regard for anybody else there on the streets, in their vehicles, even their own. You have to wonder if this person perhaps has been in prison before. Right. Perhaps doesn't want to go back again anytime soon. So
this would be a place to like pit maneuver him right here. Are they going to try to do it? Look, they got an opening. He's not driving that fast.
Except he's a shooting suspect. Yeah. Get back to that. Right. Does that person have a gun right there? Right.
And clearly they look desperate. Okay, so now this suspect is a little boxed in. Where are they going to go? I mean, at least it turns green.
Oh, police doors open?
Are they going to try to do something? God, you feel for all those other cars that are nearby. Man, what a scary situation. All of a sudden be driving and trying to go out to the gym or go out to a restaurant nearby, and then all of a sudden you're caught in the middle of this.
Can you imagine looking right there across at that driver?
Like, what is happening? Where do I go? And not being able to go anywhere because there's so much traffic there. So this is Crenshaw Boulevard and 102nd Street in Inglewood, where we're looking at now this traffic backup. And is the car there trying to move into another lane? Oh, God.
And to the left, oh gosh, look at that move.
Oh no.
Really?
Whoa.
Is he
on the sidewalk?
Is he thinking that not going to follow into, well, they did, right there into that parking lot. Boy, you sure wish you could get boxed in, but this driver obviously willing to go, as you saw there, on two sidewalks.
Guys. Yeah. So now they're yeah, sometimes we see these drivers go back to their hometown or go back to their neighborhood. It appears like this driver is just driving randomly, kind of not knowing, not having a plan, but just knowing that they are going to do everything humanly possible to try to resist being taken into custody, potentially being taken into custody again. Ooh, almost a mix there. You just hope against hope that this thing doesn't end with a car being hit.
And, you know, we may not know for some time the nature of the shooting. This is, again, a shooting suspect. So many of these we cover, Alex, are perhaps a DUI or wanted for failure to yield kind of thing, and they escalate into some kind of pursuit. But this is a shooting suspect, already a violent act. Police are wanting this person for. Did it happen today? Were they following this person? They found their suspect? Did it happen some? That's something that we'll probably find out perhaps by the 10 o'clock news.
So, you know, involving a shooting suspect compared to like a failure to yield or something, if you really are responsible for that, you know, you could be behind bars for the rest of your life. So this could be this person's last of freedom, and they think, what else do I have to lose? If they really are guilty of this, and so, who knows?
So we picked this up around the South LA area to start in 105, and we're back in the South LA area. We were back in Inglewood. And as we've covered so many of these pursuits, does it tell you that this person is more comfortable and familiar with the streets in this area? Is this an area that they know, that they perhaps where they live? The person hasn't gotten back on other freeways. Person has gone to a number of other communities that we haven't mentioned in this newscast already. We are here staying in the Inglewood area, which can often be very telling to police.
Yeah, look
at Randy's Donuts there? Is that the big donut there?
That is it. That is that iconic spot. So that means we are near the freeway, and we will see, to your point, Christine, if they get on the freeway or not, as we are now on Normandy and 96th in Inglewood. Wow. Yeah, this driver really, really going fast. I mean, they're moving at, you know, high for a freeway speeds side streets, which means that if this person was, since now they're driving potentially on the wrong side of the road again, if they were, you know, to crash into somebody, potentially even head on, you know, that could be deadly for everybody involved with the driver at that.
And we have seen so many times where police back off a pursuit. They're staying on this one, and I'm thinking it's because it's the nature of the crime. A shooting suspect. We've had Dennis Zion on, a former reserve officer, talk about how we can't just let people go. So sometimes their want is perhaps a shooting suspect where there might be a victim alive or dead, and their family members we have to think about as well. But it looks like this one, police are not letting this go. They're not, you know, turning this into a follow.
And if this person is that desperate, as they certainly appear to be now, what else could they potentially do if left to their own devices as well? And that would be something that law enforcement would be criticized for. Why didn't you him or her when you had the chance? But you know, it is a not an art, not a science, and there's not always the right answer, and these decisions are being made in real time, not with the thought of law enforcement's safety, but the safety of the public itself, in terms of how much to pursue and how much not to. And there is not always a right answer because it's complicated, determination. And usually whatever happens bad, they get blamed for either way. And oftentimes get sued for a lot of money. Yeah.
Well, again, I'm going to go back to the nature of the want on this, which we don't see every time we do a pursuit, a shooting. And so police really seem to want to catch this person or stop this person. So I'm curious to find out from police what happened here with this shooting. Again, we're still in the South LA area. Suspect back on freeways, possibly could have made their way to a freeway if they know where to find the freeway. Doesn't look like the suspect has tried to ditch the car at all. They're just kind of going and going and going until they can't, for some reason, go anymore.
Yeah, it looks real dark here as we move into Los Angeles as well. And it's going to be challenging for Skyfox to keep track of this vehicle. Here, again, we still think about all those different flight restrictions that they have and the challenges that they have trying to keep up with this person as they move so fast. And you look there at the road and some of the freeways as well. It'll be interesting to see which way this person goes. I mean, yes, you're right that they did stay in the Inglewood neighborhood for a while, but it was not a situation where we sometimes see, you know, they're near their house and they circle around the same 3 or 4 blocks over and over again and drive past the same things. That has not been what we've seen so far. It appears to be kind of random as this driver goes to places, and when they literally run out of space, they make a U-turn or you know, move in another direction. But you see a lot of these roads nearby, including the freeways, pretty packed, as you would imagine on a Friday night at rush hour as we approach the top of the hour here on Fox 11.
So very dark out, too, as we come up close to the 6 o'clock news hour here. Again, you've been watching a pursuit that started in the South LA area where we picked it up, the Inglewood area and the 105 freeway. Now on surface streets after going all the way to LAX on the 101 freeway westbound and pretty much making a U-turn upon hitting the beach area, coming back on the freeway, straight back here to South LA. Again, the want is a shooting suspect. Don't know, Alex, we haven't heard if it's a male or a female or if there are others in the car. So far, no word of any others in the car.
Right. Although they did drive in the carpool lane, so I don't know if that's an indication of anything. I don't think it is. But yes, we don't know about the circumstances that led to this. But the intensity of this driver's desperate effort to get away and the intensity of some of the law enforcement staying with this person in such big numbers is an indication that it probably was something that started this whole thing out. So now we're once again in a position where we're kind of far away and trying to figure out where exactly this person is.
Yeah, so imagine being law enforcement and how many resources who've been trying to follow this. Joining us now is Dennis Zine. I mentioned your name a moment ago, Dennis Zine, now LAPD Reserve Officer, former full-time officer and LA City Councilman. This pursuit, one of the more dangerous ones I've seen in a while.
It is extremely dangerous, and not only the danger factor, but now you can't use our helicopter because of LAX and the issue with that. A lot of traffic, a lot of congestion. You've got Los Angeles Police Department. You're now entering Inglewood back and forth. Very complicated. But if there wasn't a shooting suspect, I don't think you'd see this continuation. Normally they would terminate, but in this particular situation, because of the allegation of shooting, they want to apprehend, and you can tell by the way they're fleeing. And you've been watching this, the viewers, for a long time. It is a desperate situation for them to flee. Do they have weapons in the car? That's another concern that the officer. There's no concern for the vehicles or the pedestrians, and you said earlier, rider struck by this individual. So it's one of those very dangerous, hazardous situations, and the department is doing what they need to do with this control. They have a lot of units. They need a lot of units. They have a new technology where the watch commander is now observing through the lead vehicle exactly what's happening during the pursuit, and the watch commander will decide if they're going to ever terminate. But in this particular situation, I don't know how you terminate if you got a shooting suspect in a vehicle that's fleeing, and the hazard that's been involved to the motorists, especially now during traffic commuter time when people are going home.
Exactly.
Dennis, we're going to have you stand by here. I'm going to be signing off our 5 o'clock newscast, and we are going to continue on our 6 p.m. newscast here. Curious to see how this one plays out, hoping this person is taken into custody and nobody hurt.
So if you're watching our simulcast on Channel 13, that's about to end. If you want to see continuous pursuit coverage, flip over to Channel 11 or stay on foxla.com/live. With that, we officially welcome you to the Fox 11 news at 6 o'clock tonight. We are following breaking news. A pursuit of a what we believe to be a shooting suspect has weaved its way through several Southern California communities, including Inglewood and Hawthorne. It appears right now the driver has stopped in this one spot right here, and we got a bit of a standoff situation. The driver now out of the car. I'm Alex Michelson. Marla Tea is now joining our coverage.
Yeah, so this has been going on for nearly an hour now. If you've been watching along on Channel 13 and now you're watching on Channel 11, here we are, and we are getting word that the suspect, the alleged shooting suspect, has now surrendered. So you see the standstill with all of the flashing lights, the traffic stopped on this this Friday evening, straight up 6 o'clock. And that suspect has surrendered after just a wild and dangerous pursuit. Much of that near LAX, much of that through Inglewood, Alex.
It is. The good news, though, the speeds that driver was going at 80, 90 miles an hour, driving wildly on the wrong side of the road, weaving through traffic, sort of like a Frogger game. The fact that nobody was seriously hit and nobody had any injuries in this whole thing and no vehicles sustained any major damage is quite something. It'll be interesting to know now in terms of the circumstances about that shooting. We will try to get you more information about that as the night goes on. You know, as we try to get more, and you see all the different law enforcement vehicles that are now coming to act as a backup in this whole thing. And you think about all the other vehicles that are sort of caught up in the middle of this on a Friday night. Weren't expecting to be in the middle of a high-speed pursuit.
It's turning around. Obviously, they are trying to get the perimeter, and you're seeing it clear out relatively quickly, just like that. They are around seemingly. We have to assume at this point, given that we've heard that now that the suspect is officially in custody in one of those black and whites, the police down below doing the best to clear this intersection on a Friday evening. That is good to see, especially given just what much of the Inglewood area has endured over almost the last hour, going in and out of major parking lots, putting a lot of pedestrians' lives at risk, fellow drivers, innocent drivers. It looks like now, Alex, that intersection is officially open.
So that is the good news there, and we are now getting word that there is a second person vehicle who is running in an alley. So let's first try to take a look at how we got here. On the left is the live picture. On the bottom right, the bigger camera here is some tape footage. You see the suspect there weaving through traffic, very dangerous on the freeway, moving, you know, and putting a lot of people in danger doing so, getting boxed in at one point. There were a lot of vehicles around, and then found a way to move through traffic. Circumstances, these people very, very desperate to get away. You wonder if now we know that there was a passenger, if that passenger was acting to help guide this person as they moved all over the place. And you're looking at it there. There are varying degrees, having done so many of these pursuits, of desperation for people, and this seemed like one of the more desperate ones we've seen in a while. And the fact that it is a shooting suspect makes this more desperate for law enforcement as well.
Yeah, and so we have Dennis Zine, police specialist, on the line. Dennis, what do you make of the fact that all along there was not just one, but two people, and now that second person apparently is still out there?
Yes, whether the second one who left the car, and they have a perimeter set up, and they will hopefully apprehend that second suspect. The first one obviously in custody. The pursuit is now, so the hazard to the community is now reduced significantly. There'll be a massive traffic congestion in that area because they're going to tow the vehicle, they'll have to search the vehicle, etc. But now they have the driver, but they're still looking for the second, and they've got a search going on. Sufficient units between LA and Inglewood. They've got sufficient units, and I'm sure they'll apprehend that suspect shortly.
Yeah, let's hope so. It's a lot calmer situation than it was before. I'm glad that the overall, you see the people though running across the crosswalk. I wonder if that's law enforcement directing people to sort of get out of the way in a situation like this. But yes, Dennis, to point out, greater danger to the community has ended, given that the pursuit is terminated, but now we have another suspect out there on foot, still trying to get away from officers, trying to not get into custody on this Friday night. And given that this was an alleged shooting, you wonder if this person is armed, because they always assume that whomever that they're dealing with is in fact armed. Dennis?
Exactly. Both suspects could have weapons. A high-speed situation with this person. And now the congestion, the traffic, it's a Friday night at this particular hour. You got a lot of people commuting on that road. There's a lot of factors that come into this, but fortunately the pursuit is now ended, terminated. That is positive. And they've got one in custody, but maybe the second one was obviously maybe involved in a shooting or situation or has a weapon. But with the sufficient units, they've got more than adequate between LA and Inglewood. Those ground units, they have a number of officers there. I don't know. They'll probably bring in a canine, utilize the canine, and they'll do an extensive search to come up with that second suspect. But fortunately for the public, the termination of that pursuit is very positive, so you don't have chaos on the highway, as we know what happens in a pursuit.
All right, Dennis, well, we appreciate your perspective as always. We are going to try to get more information, and if we do get more information, we will come back to this story. In the meantime, we're sort of in a bit of a standstill there, and we want to get some